Hey folks, how are you? Thanks for waiting. And App Boy, if you're there, feel free to join. I just sent you the link. So I'm finally all set up. So thank you so much for waiting, everybody. Let's see. Hey, Max, do you want to join me too again? Yeah, you're welcome to. Yeah, so let me know. Let me send you the link too. Maybe you and Brian can be online today too. So I think that would be great. So yeah, and thank you so much. Appreciate your patience. As such, right? I just got into this new job. I know, folks, you're gonna be like yelling at me like, why am I like starting another new job? Long story, but anyway, I'm very happy at where I am now. I'm at DataStax, and it's a company that does data management with big data, Cassandra, a lot of open source. In fact, that's what I'm going to talk about today is Apache Pulsar, which is like another big project that they are involved with, in addition to Cassandra. As such, right, with big data, you know that we are processing huge amounts of data, and guess what? In today's world, everything is easier if you are using if you're using streaming to do things. So, and my interest too is really in streaming, so that's why too I'm kind of super excited. But I'm noticing I might be a little bit kind of dark, my face, or is it so? I don't know. Sometimes too, when I'm setting up the system new every time, it's always takes such a long time, and then for longest time too, my OBS was not recognized by my this streaming platform because it's new. I think machine was new. I think it's must be needing some time to do the the resolve new things and finding it discovery. So anyway, oh, that is so weird. I'm trying to do 1080 in here, and it says it's not supported. Let me do a couple of things too to kind of see if it fixes the problem. It's always like that. So thanks for being patient with me. So anyway, let me quiet down myself. And yeah, I'm finding myself kind of loud. Am I like too loud? Okay. Anyway, yeah, Max. Yeah, yeah, that's great. Yeah, thank you so much, Max. Would you like to join me too? I can send you the link as well if you want to join again. But let me get over to Discord and send it to you. But no pressure too. You may have work to do. So yeah, yeah, so just send you the link if you want to also join too. And then when Brian comes back with his wings, I'm waiting for Brian to bring his wings, even though, it's virtual, but just to look at wings, oh my gosh. And folks, not sure if it is just like a specialty. Is it like only in the US? Chicken wings, right? Like with I don't think actually it's US now you think of it, because there's actually a supermarket chain near me. It's called H Mart, right? So and it's actually is a Korean based company. It's pretty cool, right? Selling a lot of the Asian products. And in fact, there's actually the like the eatery area. So they have set up all of these Asian eateries, bakery, things like that. Is really amazing too. So they recently opened up a store, like an eatery thing, right? You order takeout kind of thing, or kind of you can sit there too. It's an open kind of a open, what you call a dining hall, right? So and the price is very reasonable, given the fact that it is kind of kind of not like fancy sit down restaurant, but the food though is just amazing. I think that wings I still have to try, and it's always a long line. It's been open for like maybe 2 weeks or something every time. Well, I go there once a week to do my shopping, and so I saw these long lines, and then so one of these days I'm going to try the wings. And now Brian, well, App Boy is gonna be ordering wings, so I cannot wait until he brings and shows the wings that he'll be eating. So, anyway, if you have any food you want to share, let me know too. So, and anyway, let me see. Yeah, I think Max, you might be busy because Max is a busy dad with two boys, right? And so they must be keeping you quite busy. And Brian too, App Boy, he has a little girl, so we need to ask him about his baby girl too. So when he comes back. So and anyway, so let me see. So okay, so I started this new position. I mean, the interesting thing is that I was working with IoT MQTT for 2 months, and that was actually quite interesting too. It's also pops up type of kind of technology, and I enjoy. For me, I really like working with asynchronous, event driven type of messaging streaming type of platform. So now I have this opportunity working with big data event streaming is really very exciting for me. And I think I'm seeing Max. Yeah, how are
Hi,
you?
yeah, I'm so happy to. Thanks for having me again.
Yeah, yeah, of
I,
course. Yeah,
I,
anytime. Yeah,
I feel that I'm in a secure place, so
yeah.
I can
Thank you.
join you and I talk a little
Anytime.
bit about this new service, this new kind of framework. It's a tool, Apache
Yeah,
Pulsar, right?
yeah.
I have been listening about something about that from a friend from Soul Java Jug down here in
Oh,
Brazil.
yeah, yeah.
His name is Igor de Oliveira. He's
Oh,
a data engineer uh,
oh,
expert. So it looks like he loves to work with Kafka and streaming
oh,
tools. So
streaming.
uh,
Yeah,
yeah, and
yeah,
it's so interesting.
yeah,
And I'm so excited to recognize about this tool,
yeah.
what this tool can bring us, is
That's right.
streaming processing areas.
Yeah, that's
I'm so
right.
great, thanks.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, you're welcome. Yeah. So I was thinking because I actually, okay, so this is only my third day with the company, but it's a great place, right? It's based in California, Silicon Valley, one of the Valley companies. But it's actually, I'm finding it to be so refreshing, right? They are talking about managers, they are like coaches to us. They want to create a culture in which managers are not like towering, it's not like big monster over people working on this team. Is more about coaching, right? They are just there to help you to succeed. So I really like that idea. That's why I'm so excited. Anyway, so Yeah, so it's all about big data streaming and all of these things. So I have yet to find out more about it, but the thing is too with the streaming stuff is it's always been my kind of top set of technologies that totally excited about. So I'm really excited about the opportunity too. So yeah. Have you
Oh,
worked with
great.
like streaming? Have you worked with specifically like streaming, event streaming, and processing
Uh,
this?
no, I've just studied something about the streaming concepts and something like that, but I never have a opportunity to work in a professional way.
Oh, okay.
I can see that most of companies, especially um, data streamings, for example, Netflix
Yeah.
or HBO Max or Disney
Yeah.
Plus. So I think that it's it's a kind of tool that the most of this kind of companies is looking for. So
Yeah, yeah,
I don't know if how those things works. Looks like most of the tools are becoming SaaS, so they are becoming kind of a service that you pay as a go. So I don't know if Pulsar
ah,
is something like that.
yeah,
Maybe
yes,
if there are a kind of training area that you can explore, experiment,
yeah.
something like that, it will be so interesting. So to
Yeah,
see.
totally. So yeah. First too, I need to also learn more about it too. But just the thing. Oh yeah, and I meant to say then it's my third day, and yesterday I presented at the Garden State Java users group, right? So presentation. I was kind of nervous because it's my first one, and I'm learning, all these things. But thankfully too, there's also, company also has some. Uh, Even though it's new, right, this product, but there are already some slides and where people are working on this. My new colleague who is also developer advocate, great guy, but he happens to be on vacation, but he was so kind. He just said, you know what, I have this set of slides, you can kind of take a look. So it's been great. So I actually was able to kind of show the slides and explain some of the things. So I was thinking, oh, it's great too. Today I can also be sharing with the audience today. So yeah, so I thought before I tell you, then and I can just say it's quite exciting. It's a new type of technology. It's actually you were asking about Kafka, so exactly that's what is happening. Kafka does his job well and everything, but the Pulsar thing is amazing. I think it's because it's separate out. It think of it like a step up, right? Of not just like Kafka. Kafka does all the streaming, has the broker, and do everything for you. But what about storing all of the log records? So Kafka itself manages that, but within the same kind of component, right? The broker and the storage all together. But Pulsar, I think the differentiating thing is that it separates out. It's got the compute part, then it's got the storage separately, and the storage part they're using Apache Bookkeeper. So it's also called, like, I think nickname is Bookie. So it's a bookkeeper. So if you think a bookkeeper is any kind of business, it's like ledgers, right? Doing financial ledgers, journals, all those things. So the bookie's functionality is to do this kind of journaling. So all of the log records as you're happening is actually managing the way it is doing is the bookie is managing it, and then it also uses Zookeeper, Apache Zookeeper, for managing, right, on the cluster level, things like that. So yeah, so that's what it is. And by the way, sorry, let me welcome App Boy on. Still, App Boy just joined. Hey, App Boy,
Hey
what
everyone, how are you
are you
doing?
doing? Where are your wings?
What happened?
Where are your wings? Did you finish all your wings?
Yeah, I finished those off way too quickly, but I was
Yeah,
starving, so I was like, ah,
no problem.
I'll do that first.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, no problem. Next time, bring us the wings. No, I kind of sounds like, but I love wings actually. Did you like
Yeah.
spicy too?
Yes,
Yeah.
I had like spicy buffalo wings. Like I was like,
Oh,
oh, you know
that's
what? I feel this feels like an unhealthy day because it's snowing in New York City. So I was like,
oh, snowing.
I don't feel like
Ah,
a salad. So
yeah.
switch it up.
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah, you make me hungry. I want some wings tonight. So
Yeah. So
yeah. How about like in Brazil? Talking about wings. So Max, in Brazil, do you have special dishes like with chicken wings?
Yeah,
Yes.
we do as well. But we well our dish our food are so, how can I say, Brazil. there are a lot of cultures mixed in the same place. So we
Yeah.
got Italian food, we got
Oh, yeah.
Chinese food, we got
Oh, yeah.
European food. So there are a lot of kind of ways
International.
to have to dinner and something like that. But
Yeah.
yeah, wings are so good.
Yeah. Yeah. That's right.
I
I
assume
agree with
Japanese
you,
as
Gary.
well, right? Like there's like a
Yeah.
Japanese food mix as well.
Oh, in Brazil, right?
In Brazil, right? There's a
Brazil, you
huge
also have a big.
Japanese population, so I was like always wondering what the
Yeah.
hybrid Brazil Japan foods
Oh,
are, because that
that,
sounds interesting.
yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we got some places in Brazil that are big groups of immigrants from other countries, and
Yeah.
of course, they are
Yeah.
already here a lot
Yeah.
of days, and we it reaches it can make our food more flavors because we can mix those things and something like that.
Totally.
It's in this wonderful. So
Totally.
if you're free and if you want to visit my country,
Yeah.
I suggest you
Love
to eat feijoada. It's a something special food
fish. Well,
down here in Brazil, and
yeah.
probably if you eat it. You want to sleep, you want to rest because it's so nice and
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
feel
Yeah.
comfortable.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, around actually my neighborhood, close to me, I mean, here in Chicago, or maybe in the U.S. too, there are Brazilian restaurants that are they serve these huge plates of barbecue, like meat, right? Yeah, like
Barbecues,
a meat
yeah.
restaurant. Yeah, yeah, that's
Okay.
amazing. It's a huge.
I cannot eat it anymore. I need to save my health, so
Yeah,
I need to stop to listen that. I'm
yeah,
starting
true.
to feel the flavor on my mouth. My
Yeah,
God.
wow. So it is pretty popular then, right? In Brazil, the barbecue restaurant with meat kind of restaurant, right? So,
Yeah, but well, Brazil exports a lot of steaks and something like that for other countries, but that's the reason
um,
why probably down here it's cheaper. It's something cheaper to the people down here in Brazil, but
yeah.
and that's the reason why maybe we it's easier to us to buff a lot of steaks and do barbecue in
Yeah,
our chicken and something like that.
yeah, yeah, sure, sure, sure. Well, okay, so
Kitchen, sorry, kitchen, chicken. Oh
kitchen.
God,
Oh
my
yeah.
God, my God, my English. Sorry.
Don't worry, don't worry.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah, don't worry. Yeah, yeah. Well, that's cool. Yeah, so that's kind of good to start my stream with food. I think it's never
Mhm.
wrong. Yeah, yeah. I should actually also chat some too with App Boy because I haven't seen you for quite some time. How have you been?
I've been extremely busy trying
Yeah.
to figure out the role of a staff and lead engineer
Oh,
for my
cool.
organization, and yeah, we're on the App Store now, and then doing a
Oh,
lot of I guess you would say application architecture on
oh,
that side.
cool.
So yeah, it's been interesting learning the two worlds, because before it was just I was just a single contributor, senior software engineer, and then
Oh,
now it's like I'm responsible for other people.
oh,
So yeah, making that
congratulations.
transition. Yeah.
Cool, congrats. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, yeah. So tell us about maybe the application you work with. Is it like with AI, right? With health data and then AI.
Oh, that's
Like,
what the company I moved from. That was the company I was at before.
oh,
But
okay.
we were, and I can go a little bit into that. We were really leveraging a lot of different AWS cloud offerings,
Oh,
mainly around a combination of Kinesis and step functions were
oh,
probably the newest things.
okay.
Um, and step functions are very interesting. It's taking
Yeah.
it's taking the Lambda kind of architecture and
Uh-huh.
breaking it down into very small, discrete microservices with
Oh, okay.
very standard logic, and
Oh,
or kind of if
yeah.
statement logic, and it regexes the output and stuff like that. And
Oh,
yeah, it's pretty good for when it comes to medical data, because we
wow.
were we were processing DNA sequences, and
Oh
essentially
wow.
it's a giant regex to figure out which DNA sequence goes to where.
Oh
So
wow. Okay. That
yeah,
is very cool. So is it that those data, do you do them in real time at all, or
real
just
time.
real
Yeah,
time? Oh,
we essentially get a standard SES or SNS topic hit, and then we
oh,
know the process. And that data's processed, it's put somewhere in the API, and then it can be consumed.
oh, okay. So it is a kind of, oh, okay. I'm aware too. AWS I haven't worked with for the serverless, right? The
Mhm.
cases and all these are really serverless event type of kind of
Yeah,
architecture, right?
event-driven architecture. Yeah,
Yeah,
totally.
event-driven. Yeah. So is it like a pub sub type of thing that you, when you talk about you consuming, so then you're like publishing their data coming from medical stuff,
Yeah,
like,
essentially, most medical systems I've seen have been ETL on demand, and
oh,
you can only really accomplish that with PubSub, honestly. And then,
oh,
the processing has to be of a certain speed and time. Yeah, so yeah, definitely a very huge PubSub like community.
oh,
And also at the same time, I think it's been very difficult for medical startups to utilize notification systems that are very native. Like a lot of people use Firebase, I think, for
oh,
notifications.
okay. Yeah.
But I think the problem with that is there's certain medical information you can't just send through a system.
Oh,
So, private medical PMI, that's what it's called, private medical information.
oh,
Usually, a lot of log systems, like places like Datadog, they actually scrub that out of their
oh,
logs. Like they're able to have a detector to know if, like, oh, is this PMI stuff? So they'll scrub names, they'll scrub social security numbers and stuff like that.
oh,
And the problem with some notification systems is that I can send a notification, but it's not going to know to scrub some information.
oh, okay.
So you have to worry about logs. You have to worry about a lot of things. Like I'm going into
Yeah,
like the whole ecosystem, like
yeah,
very proprietary stuff. But
yeah.
yeah, that's
Oh,
one area I can see medical needing help with.
oh, okay. Oh, cool, cool. Well, thanks for sharing. I mean,
Yeah.
I was kind of wondering. Yeah, it's been a long time. So, are you still doing like the streaming too? And yeah,
I stream when I can. It's like
yeah,
I just have a lot of responsibilities, and like
yeah,
by the time 8:30 comes around, I want to go to sleep. So
yeah.
I
Oh,
want to
wow.
go to sleep. Like I read
Yeah.
my daughter a book, and then I go to sleep, and
Okay.
then
Yeah,
that's
that's
it.
right. Yeah, yeah. Okay. Well, thanks for sharing. Yeah. So, yeah, as I was talking to Max too earlier before you joined, was that when you were having your lunch, and I was saying that today what I can show is a bit of an intro to the data. Well, not just DataSex, I should say Apache, the Pulsar streaming product that I'm working with too. So, but I don't know if you've heard of it, Apache Pulsar, but
I've
it's
seen books of it in my favorite Barnes and
yeah,
Nobles in
yeah,
NYC.
yeah.
It has an amazing tech section for some reason. But yeah, I've seen
Yeah,
Pulsar and I've seen the book, and it's like this thick, like
yeah,
most
yeah,
Apache
yeah,
books.
yeah,
But yeah, I've seen it. I don't know what it is though. So you
yeah,
did
yeah.
mention streaming, so
Yeah, so it is. Yeah, definitely too. It's like for streaming, but it's sort of like a step up, above like Kafka. So it does what Kafka can do, but like beyond too, because it's for multi-cloud, for like large kind of installation. That's what it is very good for, because then you can have cloud environment, you can have multi-cloud. It handles like multi-tenants, geo replication and things like that too. So I just started working there too this week.
Mhm.
So yeah, I was just telling Max before you joined, so I thought it might be interesting. But in a little while after we chat or something, I can just show a few things, and even I'm kind of learning too. So I wanted to get in. There's also a free tier cloud access, so we can try it out together, because even I have to try that, and I thought it would be good to
Okay.
kind of try out together with the community. Yeah,
Yeah,
in
I'm
a
down.
little
Yeah.
while. Yeah. So yeah. So yeah. So cool. Yeah. So we'll go back to Max again. So we were chatting, and Max and I, till last week, Max and I talked about DevRel, doing developer relations, and yeah, maybe I should ask you, App Boy, too. Are you aware of like any like developer relations kind of? I guess besides myself and now also Max too, that you have worked with maybe in your work, right? Do you find? I'm just kind of curious too, because like you are definitely our customer, so to speak, right? Like you.
Hmm.
The developers, you have all these things, and I think as DevRel, our job, like developer advocates, we want to, kind of be helpful for
Right.
developers. Yeah, and
Oh.
kind of do have
See.
you do you find it with your, let's say you're doing AWS and things like that, do
Mhm.
you go to like maybe seminars and things like that, or webinars, right? That
Oh, okay.
that
I got
well
you
that
now.
kind of organize workshops, and have you been to any of those? Do you find those are being useful to you?
When it comes to developer relations, when it comes to public cloud,
Yeah.
it's pretty terrible. I'm not gonna lie. When it comes to utilities, it's fantastic. So,
Yeah.
like I've rewatched your streams when you were doing about Hive and working on Hive
Oh
and
yeah.
just like showing like examples.
Yeah.
I've rewatched those.
Yeah.
Microsoft,
Yeah.
they have a C# developer. I forget his name, but I watch his stuff all the time because
Oh.
it's kind of like, oh, he's going through an example of something you would build. And
Oh.
what's great is that the examples they give you are practical,
Yeah.
which I do think that's the catch 22 with developer, like dev rep relations. It's
Yeah.
like the catch 22 of, oh, this is super practical and not too technical,
Oh. Oh
but
yeah.
at the
Yeah.
same time, because you're talking to developers, and let's say I'm looking up, a specific example, if it's not technical enough, I get frustrated. So
Oh. Yeah.
so what I see is, the best
Yes.
examples of this I see are like, Josh Long when it comes to Spring,
Yeah.
because he'll start off with something super simple, and
Mm-hmm.
then as you go into several parts of the technology,
Yeah.
it gets way more complex. Like I was learning about RSocket from him. I'm subscribed to his
Oh.
YouTube channel, so I'm
Yeah.
going through all this stuff, and I think
Yeah.
the stuff he does for fun on the side for Spring is
Yeah.
probably the standard people should go with,
Oh. Okay.
where
Gotcha.
it's information
Mhm.
and live coding, and then
Yeah.
it's progressively tuned to be
Yeah.
more complex as you go down.
Oh, I got it. I got it. Yeah, yeah. That's actually a really, really, really good point. I see where you're coming from. I think Max also you service some customers too, right? Maybe I don't know if your role as DevRel, but I can kind of understand. I think now I also see as DevRel we definitely have to go beyond just what you can find on the books, so to speak,
Mhm.
right? Like there are small things as we're stepping through, and the books usually document something, or documentation usually tells you something that's obvious. I have to say, then you're working through a set of things and it's assuming sunny days all the time. But if we're stepping through stuff and we may not think of maybe like, oh, where to put the file, sometimes too, as I'm finding a lot of toolings too are not very clear on, well, where do these temp files go and all of these other resources go, that type of stuff. I think those are the kind, I mean, that's just an example, but of course there are tons of other small hidden things that you won't know until you step through in details and then kind of illustrate it. Like you said, I think Brian too is kind of, if DevRel, we can spend more time on kind of illustrating some of these specifics, right, to show to developers. And so it kind of becoming a way of helping developers to be productive and overcoming some of the like blockages that's so common, right? I think when we're testing something out, if it's new and things like that. So I hope that makes sense. Yeah. Or Max, do you have any comment too on this at all? Like meaning, DevRel, how can we help the developers and yeah, that type of.
Yeah, I pay too attention to this kind of situation that Happy Boy mentioned, because sometimes it's easier to create a kind of scenario, easy scenario, and explore those things, expose those things to the developers, and the developers starts to, okay, though this is like amazing stuff, let me through
Mhm.
it. But
Yeah.
when I come through it, oh God, I stuck when I can do and without support. It could
Yeah.
be frustrated. So
That's right.
in my company, actually, I tries to solve this kind of problems. For example, I bring examples how to use something like that. For
Mm-hmm.
example, in my company down here in Brazil, we have a SaaS tool called OURSEC.
Okay.
So we used to expose this kind of product
Yeah.
as a CI integration, so we can configure those things on the Amazon
Yeah.
CI/CD and something like that, in order to make sure that your product
Yeah.
has a good security,
Yeah.
as is implemented in a security way. And
Yeah.
sometimes a lot of times the developers comes to us. Okay,
Hmm.
I try to do that, but there are some specific points that I can understand very well.
Yeah.
So we, as developer advocate, we I think so that
Yeah.
we need to put ourselves in their position as too.
Yeah.
So
Totally.
we tries to solve it. We tries to understand, because probably this these are feedback so important, because maybe something is
Yeah.
not so clear, so you need
Yeah.
to change something in order to make the product more better to developers, some
Yeah.
just like that.
Yeah.
So that's the reason why I love this kind of job, this kind of
Yeah.
position, because we can learn as well. So
Yeah. Yeah.
as we
Sure. Sure.
can
Yeah.
talking to another developers, we can
Yeah.
improve ourselves,
That's right.
and then we can see how can improve the lives of the developers.
Yeah.
And that's the reason why I think that what do you say, at boy?
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't know.
No, it's
Sorry,
fine.
Yes. Yes.
that's okay. At boy, I think that yeah, you're right. When developers, advocates don't pay attention to that, it could be a problem to adopt any kind of technology. So,
Yeah.
Yeah,
but
I mean, it's only in the cloud space, I would say. Like in the cloud space is
okay,
probably the hardest. But when it comes to utilities, like when I was using
Yeah.
uh when I was looking up for Hive documentation, because I
Hmm.
think Hive has to build all these SDKs out, and their installation process has to go on every simple system or every
Yeah.
system, the
Yeah.
docs are tailored towards the use cases which developers would use and the questions they would also have. And
Yeah.
honestly, I don't even really fault the companies
Yeah.
for having this, because everything related to documentation overall is pretty automated in the
Yeah.
standard libraries we're using. If you have
Yeah.
something in Java, it's all a Java doc. So
Yeah. That's right.
you go read the Java doc. In
That's right.
TypeScript, you have a TypeScript
Oh yeah.
documentation. Golang has a generated types documentation.
That's right.
Our APIs, we use Swagger. So
That's
there's a
right.
real heaviness on programming documentation
Yeah.
for use rather than the practicality of someone having something set up.
Yeah.
So yeah, this gap is understandable. So
Yeah.
I do like the fact that the questions are being asked how to bridge that gap and fix it. So that's
Yeah,
great.
yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's valuable. Very, very great. Yeah, yeah, that's what I like to understand more from the developer's point of view. So, yeah, I can also try to make sure I do my job that's actually meaningful, right, for our developers audience. So, yeah, yeah. So thanks for sharing. So, yeah, yeah. So, yeah, let's see. Yeah, what else would be good to talk about? I feel like I'm kind of just come straight in and then started talking and didn't really prepare. But
Well, I'm
anything
on the Pulsar page.
your poster page? Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
and I'm just looking for how to get started.
Yeah.
That's where I'm at right now. So I'm
Yeah.
looking at the logo and
You're like,
everything. So I mean,
yeah,
if you want to run us through something,
sure.
I'm totally down for that.
Okay, okay, sure, sure. So what I can
great.
do, because I did a presentation, like I said, was kind of quite quickly put together, but I thought it might be good to share with you all too today, like what I talked about, and it's really introduction. I haven't got into the coding part yet, but I think it would be helpful to get an overall understanding first, right? So more of an architectural kind of understanding, or kind of just high level understanding, essentially. Okay, so Pulsar, I have it here. So let me kind of do this one thing. I need to kind of let me see if how oops. I need to try to like okay.
That
So I
works.
think yeah, right. This works, right? Yeah. Okay. Oops.
Oh,
let me kind of make sure I do it right. And even now I'm using Melon, so I'm trying to see how I could do this so then that it makes sense, right? So I
maybe
had
you need
earlier.
to maybe you need to share your screen. Am I
Yeah,
right?
maybe in that case, maybe let me share my screen in this case rather than using this. So yeah, okay. Let me see how that works. Okay, okay, and okay, show on screen. Oh, here we go. Yeah, this is better, right? Yeah, okay. So Pulsar. Okay, so this is actually the Pulsar webpage, and let me also quickly share with the audience too. Just post it in here, so if folks wants to know about it, let me add new. This I'm by the way, I'm using this thing called Melon. It's a StreamYard or Streamlabs project, right? Melon.
Mm.
If you're familiar, but I found it out by accident. I said, oh, not by accident. It's like, inadvertently. I said, oh, let me try it, and then actually, it's pretty good. I like it, and it's affordable for me. So yeah, so I pay for it. Anyway, so I just sent this link, right? Pulsar.apache.com, and a presentation. So where did my presentation go? Oh, I'm so sorry. Let me look for it. I thought I had it. Okay, I think I know why. Because I minimized. I had to reboot my system and then I minimized it. So if you can give me 1 second, I have to go find it. Oh, here we go. Sorry. Okay.
I,
So here
I,
we go.
could,
Yeah.
could, could, I- could I do a question for Happy Boy a little bit?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
Please,
Uh,
Sure.
please talk.
I,
Please talk.
I listened that you mentioned about private information, something like that. It's related to GDPR, something like that. Am I right?
No,
Oh no.
in America, there's something called the HIPAA laws,
Oh,
which are essentially standards for medical data and medical
oh,
information relating to each person. So, if I was logging, let's say I got a DNA sample from a certain patient, I couldn't put their um, name of the patient directly in there without it being encrypted.
got it, got it.
So some systems specifically, and Datadog is the one I think of because they had utilized Datadog for their logging, has a regex and detection system for private information, and it will change the log to hide that information.
Oh, got it.
So yeah, so that's an example of like, and I see that being a problem with notifications because I have yet to see notification systems that have built that level of complexity, as especially as it seems like the medical system is kind of embracing more distributed tech. I can see that being a problem going forward, but you know,
Yeah.
Oh, got it, got
Yeah.
it. Thanks for the answer. Thanks.
no problem.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
it's something so interesting because my last job was my last company was OpenText, and OpenText has
Oh.
a lot of quarters and spread in the world. And I remember that I needed to do some training about GDPR and something like that in order to hide those things as well. So down here in Brazil, we also have a similar laws regarding private information. But down here in Brazil, most of the companies are not prepared to to organize those things in the better way. So, but it's interesting to know someone that works with it, because maybe in the future I can ask you more about this kind of thing. It's so
Yeah, no
important. I
problem.
think it's so interesting. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, guys, I need to go. Sorry
Oh,
about that.
no problem.
I will watch this later
Oh yeah. Don't
because it's
worry.
so interesting. And I will be on a Discord channel.
Yeah. Don't
Feel free
worry.
to hit me out if you want. So
Yeah.
I love to talk to you guys. and
Yeah.
uh,
Thank you.
and sorry my English faults,
Oh,
because well,
It's
don't
perfectly
worry.
English is
fine.
not
Yeah.
English
Don't
English
even
is
worry.
not my modern language, but I'm put
Do not
myself to
worry.
improve it. So
Do not worry at all, Max. You are perfect. You speak good English. We can understand you.
so
Yeah, so do
okay,
not
so
worry.
I
Anytime.
wish you the best presentation, and I
Thank
wish
you.
you the
Thank you.
best life. So
Thank
okay,
you, Max.
bye
Thanks for
guys, and
having
have a
joined
good
us
night.
today. Have
Bye
a good
Ciao.
bye.
good day. Yeah,
Ciao.
I'll
Ciao.
chat with you on Discord. Yeah.
See
Thank you.
ya, guys. Bye bye.
Thanks. Yeah, okay, bye bye. Yeah, okay. So I will get into kind of a bit of an events, right? So I did a talk, for the New Jersey, the Garden State Java Users Group, and I thought, oh, let me share with you. I'm still refining my slides too because it's as such is things are also new for me, but I had to quickly put together. So this is what I have, but I didn't. I'm starting at the point of I think it which would make sense is about events, right? So computing
Mhm.
events. Just wanted to kind of set the stage so everybody knows what I'm trying to get at. So when I first look at the word event, right, it can mean many things too, or kind of people kind of often we're looking at it, it's not dealing with computers. So then I like to kind of take a look first, and why do we use the word event, right? Generically speaking, right? Generic thing. It's just something that happens from Merriam-Webster.com. And then the thing is too, as I go down the list of definition, I really like this, in which it says the fundamental entity of observed physical reality represented by a point designated by three coordinates of place. So the key is the place, that the X, Y, and Z. And then one of time too. So the time also comes into this X, Y, Z coordinates. And time, of course, is in the space-time continuum. And that's actually in the theory of relativity. So we're bringing in relativity to explain events. So that's where we're starting with, right? Events, and how do we bring it into the computing world. And it's so important, events. And I think in day-to-day life, and that's something I've been thinking too, how we have learned computers are kind of a way in which we try to simplify it. We're doing things in a more structured and synchronous fashion. We're kind of breaking everything, complex thing down to like one thing, that thing's more static, nothing that could explain the flow. But in reality, we live in a world that everything is flowing asynchronously. There's no way we can live in a synchronous world. We can't be just ask somebody something and wait for them. We have to keep going, kind of thing. So events, in fact, we need to deal with it in a computing sense, because it's becoming more and more urgent too. The world is getting more and more complex. Everything needs to be real time. Like Brian, you're talking about real time medical thing, anything, right? Is real time. So anyway, so that's kind of a bit of a setting the stage about events. So there's a couple of things to kind of iron out, our understanding too. Event streaming processing, right? So basically, I kind of look up to, it's basically the practice of taking action on a series of data points. So we talk about those points. We're taking those data points that originate from a system that continuously creates data. So event is basically each data point in the system with respect to the time that it happens to. And then stream is essentially the ongoing delivery of those events. So it's a bit more, just an ongoing thing you can represent on a straight line. And a series of events can also be referred to as streaming data or data stream. So that's what we're kind of focusing on, data as streaming data. And then there's also this concept of complex event processing. So very often too, if we deal with like stream processing, we're dealing with maybe one data stream. But complex event processing is a set of techniques for capturing and analyzing streams of data. So it's really like dealing with more like a concurrency, multiple happenings of many streams, kind of like that. And you also too are processing them as they arrive to identify opportunities or threats in real time. So the real time aspect is very important. And then this complex event processing enables systems and applications to respond to events and trends and patterns in the data as they happen. So now, there's also another thing is when we talk about events, there's also the messaging aspect. So messaging is less dealing with, I think, the processing, right? So it's more like, okay, it's dealing with the events as they happen, the events, the data that it gets generated, not into the processing part. But nonetheless, let's take a look. Is event-driven and versus message-driven messaging. So event-driven are dealing with sender admitting messages, and only interested subscribers can subscribe to the messages. So that's
The
kind of
fan out pattern, yeah.
Yeah, that's the pub sub that we talk about, right? That Kinesis is doing, the publish subscribe. So basically, is the publish, the one that's publishing doesn't care who gets it, but it's usually too you are leveraging on a broker, which is kind of like, think of if I use and human terms, is like I'm the sender. I'm sending messages through the post office, and I label it with some kind of label of this message. Let's say we call it topics, right? In Kafka terms, a lot of pops up is topic. So you publish the message and label it with that topic name. So then interested subscribers will have to subscribe to the topics and get and to be notified and receive the messages by the broker. So that's kind of event driven. Now for message driven, we're talking about actually known addresses. So basically there are two parties, sender and receiver. They have to be known to each other. So that's more of a message driven messaging kind of approach. So just wanted to iron those out. Now, the thing is too with events, right? Like in computing sense too, we're now dealing with event approach. But before all of these event processing, and in fact, I should say events isn't really like that new too, because think of our telephone system. Actually, telecommunications is a bit more advanced, and I'm sure a lot of military systems too. They already have this type of event-driven type of approach. Except, I think a lot of times too, in the older times, right, when telephone was happening, for example, there's Erlang. Erlang came out in I guess the 90s, right, or 80s.
Yeah.
And they actually make use of the actor pattern, which is actually adopted by Akka, right?
Yep.
Yeah,
And then
and also
even I think they kept the same pattern with what is it called? Elixir? Yeah,
Elixir.
Elixir.
Yes,
Mhm.
yes, yes. Elixir. Yeah, that's right. So Elixir is also with that actor pattern. So yeah, so it's not all brand new, but it's just a bit more like a specific for those specific use cases. Erlang was more for telecommunications in the beginning of time, right? It's the real time handling telephone communications. But I think then with the way the computing world, the hardware is now getting caught up. So then I think the software is more ready to get also caught up with the hardware. We have multi CPUs, multi-core machines, and virtual machines. All of these things, it's making actually the concurrency, event-driven approach a lot more, readily available. So yeah, so now we're kind of dealing more with events, but it used to be batch processing is the thing that was the
Yes.
bulk, right? Yeah, I'm
Spring
sure.
batch. I remember
Yeah,
that.
that's right. Yeah, for me, I remember I worked for companies, right? The mercantile exchange or something. I mean, there were tons of jobs, and I'm sure Brian, you are aware of. You work for companies in which you IT department, you deal with a lot of batch jobs that runs only during the weekend or the nighttime, and if something goes wrong,
Yes. I love configuring cron jobs.
oh,
Those are
come
my
jobs, yeah.
favorites.
Exactly, yeah. And then you have to get up in the middle of the night if something doesn't work and fix it. I've done that before.
It's never a good midnight email, right? It's never a
Exactly.
good
So, exactly. So yeah, so that's what it used to be. But of course, too, there are still lots of batch jobs going, and I'm sure in companies too. That let's say if you're dealing with system of records, maybe an employee database, you want to any employees submitting changes of data, it only gets effective in the nighttime when it processes all of these things in batch kind of thing. So still valid too. And of course, Spring Framework has the Spring Batch, and I think the Spring Batch is still quite popular from what I've heard.
Yes.
Yeah, right.
It was
Yeah,
like one of the only tools I think at the time,
yeah.
because people would use that in combination with Spring Scheduler, and
Yeah.
then that would be it would be a deployable version of their cron job.
Oh, yeah.
So
That's
yeah,
right.
it hit a lot of use cases that people like.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's right. Exactly. So yeah. So anyway, so that's a bit of a kind of background batch processing versus event. So let's kind of take a look more as the event messaging semantics and patterns. So as I kind of a bit of a repeat is streaming, right? We deal with streaming. Is the PubSub is one of the approach kind of popular too. Basically, I already explained is a publishing client will send the data and then to the broker, the middle broker being the middle person, the agent. It's like a post office and kind of organizes all of your messages for you, and then it is all labeled in topics, and then the receiving side, the subscriber, right, would need to subscribe to the topics. So whenever there's data arrive in the topic, then the broker would distribute it to all of the subscriber. So that's kind of broadly speaking, that's how PubSub works. And of course, like Pulsar too, also actually has a PubSub mechanism, and it has broker and all of these things too, just like any kind of regular PubSub. And then the other approach is basically using message queuing. So the message queue, right over here, is a form of asynchronous service to service communication used in serverless and microservices architecture. Now, the thing is, one difference is that the messages are stored on the queue until they are being processed, picked up, and then they will be deleted too, essentially. So each message is processed only once and by a single consumer. So it kind of think of a queue as just like first in, first out, right?
So yep.
So yeah, that's right. So then it can be, yeah, but it's still kind of very useful. It can be used to decouple heavyweight processing to buffer or batch work and to smooth out spiky workloads too. So that's message queuing. So the thing is, I wanted to bring up is that Apache Pulsar actually offers both PubSub and also message queuing capability too. So And now, then let me kind of look into event streaming. So, what is driving the change? I think I already explained, right? All of these like real-time data, enhance customer experience, and there are also data pipelines to help with AI, machine learning. I think a lot of the machine learning AI dealing with really like huge terabytes of data. They have to process and do the learning, especially machine learning, doing reinforcement type of learning.
Hmm.
It goes through tons of data to kind of figure out how to do things, and so we wanted kind of more real time. But my understanding, actually, a lot of ML projects are still doing batch way of doing things, and I've heard that they said it's hard to do real time, but we're hoping to through a lot more software that can handle real time can then help the machine learning systems to be able to do things in a real time fashion. So
And I think that also change as people figure out the viable data in which to scale.
uh-huh.
Because I think right now, from what I've seen in the data science space, it's
Yeah.
every piece of data is viable.
Oh, okay.
So just in case they don't miss any use cases, and they're running like linear regressions on every like different
Yeah.
part of the data, or different what is it called?
Yeah.
Not parameters. I forget what the term is called when the data is separated by each column.
Oh,
It's a special word that they have for it,
yes.
but they're not trying to miss any kind of correlations. So everything is brought in.
Yeah.
So there's not any initial pruning. So,
Yeah.
as possibly as data is kind of pruned to what you do want,
Yeah.
maybe that might change, but batch is probably just the easiest way to do it right now.
Oh, okay. So yeah, the column data too. Yes, yes,
Hmm.
it's very interesting. Yes, I have heard of that. The column. Yeah, there's a term too. Yeah, I forgot too.
Yeah,
Also,
it's killing me that I can't remember it. Like it's
yeah,
like,
yeah.
yeah.
Thank you for reminding. Yeah, I should kind of look that up. So many things every day. I know I come across stuff. I say, oh, I think I kind of heard seen it, but thanks for reminding. I have to look that up. Yeah. Okay. All right then. Yeah. And then so that will drive the change. We want more real time kind of way of processing huge amounts of data that's happening all at once, kind of thing. And then of course too. Then the one big thing too is for scalability, right? Pops up this kind of approaches always helps with doing scalable stuff, because you decouple the sender and the receiver of both sides, so it makes things system able to kind of scale a lot more easier than if you have everything tightly coupled. Then it's a lot harder to do the scalable side of things. So those are kind of what drives the change. And then why event streaming? I think I already kind of talked about. And essentially, you want real time. I think that's really the key, is the real time. And the last line in here is ingest high frequency of messages with very low latency is the goal, right? The low latency of able to get the results faster, kind of thing. So yeah, and so now Apache Pulsar. So how is it like kind of kind of better, right? An alternative. So just an introduction first is it's an open source project managed by Apache now, or one of the Apache project, and it's created by Yahoo, and they contributed to Apache in 2016, and in 2018 it became a top level project. And from the ground up to, Pulsar was designed with the cloud native in mind. It's designing for the modern cloud age. It's cluster based and it's multi-tenant, and the client APIs too currently are primarily Java, C#, Python, and Go. And I believe somebody asked me actually if it would be on other JVM languages, and I have yet to actually find out too. But I look up the documentation. I don't see Scala yet. For example, I have somebody asking, does it work with Scala? I'm sure that eventually it would, and it's already working with JVM through Java. But I need to find out too, maybe if there will be client APIs being published in Scala, things like that, right? Then there are others too. I think, well, Go is already there, and Go is actually big with Kubernetes. My understanding, containers, right, with Go, and like that. So I'm sure too. I think maybe Ruby. I've actually seen Ruby as well. So yeah, there are others too. But anybody, if you're interested, I can go and find out the answers for you too. So yeah. So the one thing too I wanted to point out is why Pulsar is really unique too is that it separates out the compute and also the storage. So basically, if you kind of take a look, I'll tell you what it uses, right, for storage side of things. But the thing is too with Pulsar being a pub sub type of essentially that architecture, it also guarantees message delivery too. So it's basically the broker itself. It has a Pulsar broker, and then it makes sure that the messages get delivered to the intended target. Like earlier when I talk about MQTT PubSub kind of concept, the same applies here to the broker too. It's really the centerpiece, kind of make a lot of things to happen, and guarantees and all of these things too. And then also it has a lightweight serverless functions framework called Pulsar Function too. Yeah.
Just one thing, you're talking about the different types of clients. So of the official clients, Python is covered and C# is covered.
Yes, that's right.
For
Yeah.
unofficial, there's like Haskell, Scala, and Rust and .NET. So there are third-party clients that also do it. Yep.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Brian. Thanks for checking. Yeah, then it answers it too. Yeah, tell. Thanks a lot. I'm sure too because it's open source, so I'm sure that there will be, like you said, perhaps more of an unofficial thing. There are always things out there, and I'm sure maybe with open source sometimes they don't like make it official until maybe their TCK. I think their test compatibility kit, maybe it has to pass the test before it's recognized as an official kind of release and kind of thing. So yeah, but let me kind of double check with everybody too. So so then I talk about the serverless function. So if you're interested in doing make use of functional programming, the serverless framework, there's also Pulsar function kind of that piece too that supports it. And then there's also this thing called tiered storage offloads. It's basically offload the data from the hot and warm storage to cold and long-term storage when the data is aging out too. So it has that type of capability too. So that's that. And then so then what is Pulsar? So it is a unified. Think of it as a unified distributed messaging and streaming platform. It's open source. Again, it's originally was developed at Yahoo and became top level project in 2018 essentially, and it's cloud native. It works with Kubernetes, multi-cloud, hybrid cloud, things like that. Is just very ready. And also these few kind of the statistics graphs too is showing that it is gaining in popularity. If you look at the GitHub, the number of stars has grown quite a bit, right? Within the 4 years, is it 4 years? Yeah, 17 to 21 years captured. So it's like eightfold increase in popularity. And there are more contributors as well, from 27 to like 400, in the 400 range now. It may be even more now. This is kind of a bit 6 months, 7 months, 8 months ago statistics. And then even to over here to monthly active contributors, as you can see, it looks like Pulsar is already kind of gotten over Apache Kafka as well. So it definitely is a rising thing. But it is true. It's just going to take time because it's newer, and it will take time for everybody to adapt to. And who else is using Pulsar over here, right? All of these companies that we kind of recognize. These are the big ones like Yahoo, well, one of the ones, and GM making General Motors, right? And Comcast and all of these Overstock.
Yes, Comcast is the maintainer for a custom Golang library, actually.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you, Brian.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, they have the maintainers there. That's why I thought it was very interesting. The Haskell and Scala custom libraries are all maintained by Chat Roulette, and it's just like stuff like that. I'm like, wow, okay, that's kind of cool that they're committing to open source.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it is very interesting. So yeah, and then this is more of a marketing slide, right? It's about it provides value across the enterprise, higher performance, and kind of for high complexity scenario, those things like those. So kind of like for big data is really kind of a good solution too if you're looking for something to help you. And then a bit of a history. I think I already repeated it, so I won't go through this again. Is Yahoo. They started in 2016, pre-Apache, then made it into Apache incubator in 2017, and 2018 is top level. So it's kind of rising up quickly. And Pulsar is different. So this is the part. So basically, too, it has producer is client application sending messages to topic managed by broker. Consumer will be the one that's client. It's the client application that read messages from a topic managed by broker. So broker itself is a stateless process that handles incoming messages and then do the dispatching, communicates with the Pulsar configuration store, and then store messages in the bookkeeper instances. So now I brought up this bookkeeper, and that's the key right now is an Apache project bookkeeper, and it's I think they have a nickname called Bookie. So Bookie itself is responsible for helping with managing all of these persistent, huge amounts of large volumes of data as message store. So and then it will move things to cold storage too. So that's Bookie. So that's quite complex too. Actually, I might have to admit I have yet to study a bit in depth too.
So I assume that Bookie, that's why it's saying that it's a hybrid cloud, or you can put it on top of an S3 or a bucket. You can put Bookie on top of that.
Yes.
All right. And I guess that's how the guaranteed delivery works, because Zookeeper is looking for changes, but also has access to the broker. Oh, okay. I'm understanding the broker with that specific topic is not cloned, but very similar to Kafka, where there's a master node and then there's like a secondary. Zookeeper reads what the booker is doing.
Yeah.
Then the Zookeeper can confirm delivery by connecting to Bookie. Sorry. Okay. I think I'm following. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, exactly. So you got it, Brian. You really sure. Thank you. You're great. I should always have you with me. You kind of help me with this is some of the things I have to admit I haven't got time to.
Sorry, I like diagrams.
No. This is wonderful. Yeah. You'll be a great person to collaborate and do work with. I guess your team is very lucky to have you. Yeah. I love it. So yeah. But anyway, so exactly too. So Zookeeper, as we know too, it helps managing states and the cluster metadata, coordination of tasks between the clusters, and sort of as the name implies, I was thinking, I didn't read yet, but I gather Zookeeper must be like chaotic, right? It's like a zoo with so many things, but it is the keeper.
It's supposed to keep all the animals, and it was a big part of old school Lambda architecture, where you would use Pig SQL or Pig to write out these like large HBase and old school Lambda architecture in general was like, since Zookeeper was mainly used there to watch for updates and check on all the animals. So that's why it's called Zookeeper.
That's right. Yeah. Now I got it too. Yeah. But sometimes it's funny when I'm working with things I don't pay as much attention when I'm just focusing on my piece. But now looking at the whole thing, I makes sense, and they pick a name like that, Zookeeper, Bookkeeper, and I can kind of see that now too. So, yeah. Anyway, so this is a diagram that explains it. And then, okay, so here also getting a little further, but still kind of high level explanation. The design principle, right, is a tiered architecture design. And they're multi-node architecture, producer, consumer, and it supports like horizontal scaling too. And then there's also topic abstraction. There partition too. There's this concept of it that basically masks complexity from consumers. So consumer don't have to worry about is basically then it's on the broker level, right? That over there, that is Pulsar itself manages all of these partitioning, the partition topics too. So essentially, I thought I'd find it interesting is that if you don't have this kind of approach, then if you need to worry about partitioning, and then there's a need, if you need to scale your whole system, then you have to rebalance everything. But the Pulsar itself, that's what it is. It's built in, has the mechanism of rebalancing things for you if you need to be scaling up and down your ecosystem too. So with respect to the partitioning kind of aspect. So yep. So over here too, tightly coupled persistence and message serving capabilities impose high cost on historical data. So the trade-offs to support partition topics came at the expense of messaging semantics needed for use cases such as queuing. So essentially too, this allows to Pulsar to handle both like pub sub and then also with the queuing because of this topic partition partitioning to this kind of architecture. So yeah, so that's something just I wanted to kind of point out and share. I'll be going a bit more deeper into it and actually work with it to see how it's actually being done too. So, okay, so and then over here too, this is also kind of explaining what's the big deal, right? It's basically it gives fast and low impact horizontal scaling and reduced cost. So that's more for like planning and managing aspect, all the expenses for capital expense or capex and opex, so operation expense, right? So okay. And also, Broker itself is basically stateless and has built-in load balancing and is instantaneous scaling too. So it's constantly kind of checking to make sure to that your whole system doesn't suffer in performance. So it's watching to kind of
Mhm.
scale up and down accordingly. And also, then it handles disaster recovery too, like zero impact. So think of it that way, right? If you're developers too, these are the kind of things that actually would have been taking you a long time to do if you don't have this kind of an infrastructural kind of backbone to help you with this thing. So Pulsar kind of comes in and offering you that type of support. So yeah. And okay, oops, I kind of a little too soon, but I wanted to point out about Bookie too. Bookie too, is this scalable? Is itself too Bookie? It's can be used for other things, but this is being chosen by Pulsar to use, for managing the journaling, the ledger kind of technology to manage all of the messages. So and it's scalable, is wall based. So wall is actually write archive, well, some protocol that deals with like log writing too. So I'm sure Brian, you can kind of look that up too. I again forgot about this particular one, but it's essentially, yes, it is it's based on the wall protocol too,
Mhm.
dealing with writing of log records, fault tolerance, low latency kind of storage service, and it's tunable too, for message replication. Ensemble size, write quorum, act quorum, all of these things are really specific to how you kind of manages the right kind of efficiency, so to speak, right? That aspect. And it's basically too, there's these journals, this concept of journals in Bookie that manages, that guarantees the writes are fast. And also then it's centric data persistence via ledgers too. So it has this concept of ledgers too. So yeah, so just thought I share about with that. And so basically, to kind of summarize again, is really a next generation of enterprise messaging and is unified solution for if you want pops up, you want queuing, streaming, and message mediation and enrichment. Pulsar can do it for you. So out of the box capabilities will be, it supports on-prem and hybrid cloud and geo replication. So that will be useful if you're managing, especially a large center in which you have or a large like data management kind of place, right? It manages geo replication for you too, and it's actually also allows you to configure each region separately, right? There's multi-region support because you have different geography of, let's say, data center in different countries, different continents, and different rules and laws, and it allows you to actually configure things accordingly. So I think, Brian, when you mentioned about scrubbing data, for example, things like kind of on that level too, you can actually configure things because let's say in
Mhm.
Europe, right, there's GDPR, that privacy kind of legislation or regulation, GDPR, right? Those kind of things, they're pretty strict in Europe. So there's certain configuration. I think you can also be applying those rules to only to some data center that will be affected by or kind of needs to abide by GDPR. That is
Right.
just an example, right? So in the US, maybe more relaxed, and there you can configure it to be not worry about that and that type of stuff. So yeah, and then the other things like data lake integration and all of these other things. So it takes into account all of these kind of larger issues, so to speak, right? Kind of on the business kind of side too, that it helps you that you can do too with Pulsar. So okay, so essentially it's unified platform for all events in the enterprise. And also too, I wanted to say somewhere too, actually I described think of Pulsar is like you can plug it into an existing infrastructure that actually has, let's say you're doing Kafka, Java, all of these things, you put Pulsar on top, it will also work too, essentially like that. So, but over here too, it's just again, an expression in pictures about how Pulsar fits into your picture. So over here, like this one on the left side is essentially you can run multiple clouds. It manages for you, and you put it on top of an on-premise implementation of however things are already running. You can continue running it. You plug Pulsar in, it will handle all of these kind of more wider issue for you for on a regional scale, for example, something like that. So yep. And then over here, this is another picture on the right hand side that kind of explained to you. It's just illustrating it being a very flexible type of systems too, and it helps you with a lot of the problems that, especially on an enterprise level, that you would encounter. So yeah. So as you can see, right, that there you can have different things, your DBMS, cloud messaging, programs in different flavors, all of these things, and kind of interact with Pulsar as from like upstream connectivity. It also can have downstream connectivity with other systems too, running in the whole kind of giant ecosystem space kind of thing. So, and also too, if you kind of look at it, there are compatibility layer that works with Java or with Kafka or MQ, all of these things. So yeah. Okay, so here too, I think this kind of also a repeat of the earlier thing, but some of these slides, because it's just come from marketing, I just thought I'd
You're right.
share too. So again, distributed tiered architecture. I think again, think of it like it separates out the compute from storage. So that's what it makes it more powerful too. Is why it makes the scalability, in this type of system more efficient than traditional things. Yeah, it's kind of amazing because just a few years ago, Kafka was considered the thing, but now it's slowly being like overtaken by systems, for example, like Pulsar. I think that
Because
can.
Kafka uses Zookeeper as well, to my understanding,
Yes,
right?
it does, but yeah.
So in this case, it's you can scale the broker, you can scale the bookie, and scale the Zookeeper
Mm-hmm.
separately. Okay. I
Yeah.
understand. Where before, when you're running Kafka, you have to run all basically on the same machine. Um,
Yes, that's
right.
right.
Correct. Okay.
Kafka doesn't have doesn't have the separation between the compute and the storage too. So it makes, if you want to scale it, it's just harder. Yeah, you can do it, but you have to do a lot more work to make that happen. So yeah, so that's what it is. Okay, so this is just another picture explaining it's a very rich ecosystem of connectors and clients. It support a lot of things too. So yeah. And here too, the features, right? Just want to point out again, rapid patching, zero downtime, multi-tenant, identity and access management. And that's true. That's another important thing too. I'm sure any kind of systems you want to make sure is secure. So it has the IAM, right? The support for TLS authentication, JWT, the JOT, right? OAuth 2.0 authents and corporals, and then role-based authorization will provide control at cluster, tenant, messaging, producer, and customer level too. So, and then also the data itself is end-to-end encryption, TLS and encryption in transit too. So that's you can be rest assured, data is safe too. Okay, again, too, just want to point out, right, key differentiator. So first of all, is separation between compute and storage. That's we already stepped through. Is the bookkeeper for managing the storage, and then Zookeeper for helping with managing actually the clusters and the metadata, all of these other things. So, and the stateless broker will handle producers and consumers, and is broker. It helps with like load balancing and scalability. So. And the next thing is about geo replication. So this actually is native to Pulsar. It's built in. It's essentially hands-off real-time message replication across data centers and flexible message replication mode and patterns. You can have all of these synchronous versus async, active or active passive configuration, and selective message replication too. So it helps. I mentioned earlier about data compliance requirements across different regions, geo regions too. So that's a plus, and also the multi-tenancy over here. So it's consolidated messaging streaming platform operation that makes it a bit simple. Nothing very simple, but at least I think is designed and makes it at least the operational wise is simpler than otherwise you have to do it with other alternatives. So. And there's also permission control, better IT resource utilization, reduce total cost of ownership, storage quota, message flow, control, throttling mechanism, physically separate brokers and bookies for tenants. So, and then last differentiator here is the flexible message processing model. So again, you can have you can mix the pubs up and queuing too. So exclusive, and over here is just a picture kind of illustrating, right? You can have exclusive only that subscription for just that particular consumer, or failover. You have the target for one, but if it fails, then you can have a failover consumer. And the other would be have shared subscription too. A shared subscription is very useful in a multi-cloud type of environment, especially. You can have multiple consumers sharing the same subscription too. And then there's also this key shared concept too, is based on certain key for sharing, for sharing between different consumers too. Yeah, so and Kafka has also challenges. Kafka doesn't like support the queuing kind of use cases as well as Pulsar would be. So okay, so this is kind of just explain why it is Pulsar is good, because it's very flexible. It's act as a distributed log like Kafka, or pure messaging system like RabbitMQ. It has multiple types of subscriptions, several delivery guarantees, retention policies, and several ways to deal with schema evolution. And over here, actually, the Confluent too, they did a blog post on Kafka versus Pulsar. So the link is here if you want to read about that. And I can also kind of share it later too. And another article is Apache Kafka versus Apache Pulsar event streaming comparison too. That's also a good article. Now the thing is, when you should consider Pulsar will be if you need both queues like RabbitMQ and also stream processing like Kafka, making use of PubSub, you may as well think of using Pulsar. And if you need like easy geo replication and multi-tenancy is a must-have, and you want to secure the access for each of your teams. And if you need to persist all of your messages for a long time and you don't want to offload them to another storage, and if performance is critical for you and your benchmarks, and your benchmarks have shown that Pulsar actually provides lower latency and higher throughput too. So, and you are doing like say you still want to keep things on-prem, but you don't have experience setting up Kafka, and but then you have Hadoop experience, and that might be a good time to consider using Pulsar. So yeah, so these are the things. So yeah, and then data stacks too. And this is a bit more kind of trying to. I'm not trying to sell, but just to share with you too. So data stacks, we have some value added to Pulsar too. So. But I would just wanted to point out there's Astra streaming. So it's managed Pulsar. Think of it a managed cloud. And so I'm going to say if there's time, I can quickly also get into setting up a quick like free tier access to Pulsar streaming on Dataset Stacks platform. And otherwise too, you can also think of using Luna streaming. Luna can be all free. You can use completely free tier, or you can purchase the enterprise support too for that. Or if you want to manage it all on your own, you can always use the open source community driven Pulsar too. So that's the Astra streaming and Luna streaming are from DataStax. So. Okay, and that's a quick comparison against Kafka. So just wanted to kind of point out to Kafka, again, if you want to scale Kafka, it's tricky because of the coupled architecture. And Brian already explained it so well, right? Because the brokers to the storage side is kind of all together. So if you need to spin up another broker, that means it has to replicate the topic partitions and replicas, and can be time consuming. But if you separate things out, it's always easier if you need to start something up, without having had to worry about the other piece. So, and then there's no native multi-tenancy with complete isolation of tenants. Storage can become quite expensive, and although you can store data for a long period of time, it's rarely used because of the cost implications if you use the pure Kafka route. And it's also possible to lose messages in case of replicas are out of sync. And you have to then, because of that, you need to actually plan ahead of time how many brokers, how many topics, partitions, all of these things. You have to plan ahead of time, so then you kind of have to have some knowledge of beforehand and set things up accordingly. So then to avoid any kind of future scaling problems too. But it can be kind of troublesome too, as we all know. So yeah. And then working with offsets can be complicated. You just need a messaging system. And cluster rebalancing can impact the performance of connected producers and consumers. And then there's also the geo-replication, right? There's mirror maker too. It may not be the ideal thing. You can use mirror maker for Kafka scenarios. And I think then there's an example that Uber have actually created their own solution to overcome too. So yeah, so those are the things I thought that might be good. And this is just another picture kind of comparing if you do Kafka way on the left side, and then if you use Pulsar, think of it just giving you another layer of kind of the convenience that you won't get if you do it the pure Kafka way. So yeah.
For geo replication, right? That's
Yeah.
essentially, I have my broker here on the East Coast and I want one on the West Coast. Is that what that is?
Yes, so that's essentially that's what something like that, right? Yeah, you can have one in Berlin, right, and then something in New York City, something like that. So that's the definition of the geo replication kind of thing. So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but it is very true. I think Pulsar, it wouldn't be something that you do on your side hobby project, right? Then you won't be needing something like on this scale. But if you're working with companies, enterprise scale, then Pulsar would be a good
Definitely be
solution.
an asset. Yes, definitely.
Yeah. So that's kind of pretty much all I have because the rest of it is just some links to all of this stuff. So that's pretty much that's all I have for I hope it is helpful, right, to kind of just get a sense of what Pulsar is. I myself too, preparing the slides, reading up on it really helps me to understand how it fits into the picture, because to me I'm finding all of these event streaming frameworks and libraries are so confusing, because now other than Apache Kafka, there's also Apache Spark, right? There's Apache Flink and all of these other things. I haven't used those myself, but I've been also like wondering all of these, what are their differences, right? I always kind of try to ask, and why do I want to use one versus the other? But I hope too, and Pulsar, I think I'm starting to get a good understanding. If I have to architect some system, I know that kind of scenarios, then I should consider using Pulsar, for example.
Right.
Yeah. It's not like
Nice.
one size fit all. Yeah. I'm sorry.
No, but that's the whole point of it, right? Like it's
Yeah.
not supposed to be not so much one size fits all, but it's
Yeah.
malleable such that you can, or mutable, that
Yeah.
you can change there for your needs. So
Yeah, that's right. So yeah, exactly. So yeah. So yeah, I know there's like tons of information. Maybe I can wait until the next time, and then I get more. I'm hoping to next few days I have time to start getting into things. Maybe do a simple case and writing up a client just to connect to a Pulsar, the broker, to see how things work. And then I can share next time. So yeah. So yeah. Is it helpful for you, Brian? Do you think
yeah,
you could make
super.
this?
I can't wait to see the examples. Honestly,
Yeah.
that's what I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, sure. And I can't wait to, Brian, if you're doing your next stream. And I want to see, because you have certainly kind of taken up a lot of things now too. Different parts.
Yeah.
Sounds exciting. The AWS side. I wanted to also see what you do too. So
Thank you.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. So yeah. So I think it's already, well, for me it's like 4 o'clock. So I think I actually did not eat lunch. So I think I'm gonna keep thinking of the wings. So, yeah.
Apologies.
No, don't worry. But that's a really good. That's what I'm thinking of getting now. So yeah, I was like kind of hungry. But yeah. Again, I hope this is useful. Now, today, I don't know if I don't see anybody online currently, or kind of saying anything, I should say. There are people probably online, but there was one participant at the meetup yesterday. He was asking a question that was really good about, say, on the PubSub side of things. He was hoping, I'm hoping he could be here. And then if you are here, right, Ricky, Ricky, if you're here, you can explain your question again, because was asking me if I can do a step-by-step to explain, the PubSub type of scenario if I'm scaling. And then he was saying that he's using, I forgot to ask him how he's doing it now, maybe using Kafka. He had to write the code to enable, if you're scaling up and down, that the events coming in carrying all the data, that they don't get lost and things like that. How do you guarantee?
Uh,
Yeah, because
so
if
if
you
you go from 5 machines with one master for clones,
yeah
and then you go down to 3 machines, the messages that were being processed in those two possibly failed machines, how do they get resent?
100%, yes,
Uh,
things like that. I think that's a really good question, but
and
I
that's a good question.
yeah, that's right. So
I mean, what most people do, and this is not the greatest solution, is that you build a API for resending a possible event that may have been processed.
uh,
Um, and that's what I have seen people use to get around that issue.
oh, okay, yes, that's right. Yeah, but I do believe it is never easy to handle that type of things. Yeah, it
Replays in general is always
replays.
very
Yeah, messy. Yeah, I think that's the
it's a
kind of
good term for it.
yeah, that's right. So yeah, so I'll answer Ricky next time if he comes on onto my stream. I'll explain it. But I want, if Ricky you are seeing this, let me know too if you can explain your problem better. I that's how I understood it. But I hope that I address your needs too. But I will address it a little bit more detail next time. So yep, yeah. So yeah. So, yeah, so yeah, and what's for dinner? Yeah, Brian,
Mm.
for you.
My wife is making salmon, so
Oh,
yeah,
that's nice. Healthy. Yeah. How's
yeah,
your baby?
exactly.
Yeah,
Huh?
how's your baby doing?
She's well. She's well. She's we're homeschooling her, and
Oh,
she's reading on her own. She's enjoying reading. She
oh,
she
great.
just recently got her first dictionary, so now when she doesn't know a
Oh,
word, she asks how it's spelled or she sounds it out, and then she starts using it. So
wow.
yeah, because she heard delightful for the first time
Oh,
the other day, and she
oh,
looked it up and was like, "Oh, you're
oh,
delightful."
that
Like she
is
just walked
cool. Yeah, and she is 4 or 5, right?
five, yeah.
5 already. Wow. Yeah. Wow. That is amazing. Already know how to use the dictionary. That's wow. Amazing. The
We
dad and
can't spell
mom.
anything around her.
Dad and mom are amazing. Yeah. Yeah. That's you're doing the right thing. That's so fun. Yeah. Cool. Cool. All right. Yeah. So maybe I'll then end the stream here today, but I hope to see everybody again next time. And thank you so much again, Brian and App Boy. So again, App Boy, thank you.
Thank you so
And
much, Mary. I appreciate
yeah,
it.
you're welcome. Thank you. And I will have you again too. Yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
awesome. I look forward to it.
Yeah. Yeah. All right then. Yeah. And everybody, please take care. And thanks again for joining my stream today. And I also customarily, I will show my Discord server if you want
Oh,
to
yeah.
join. If you haven't already, I like to stay in touch. It's always, I feel like it's kind of, I love the community, right? This feel you always like stay connected, and you don't have to be online all the time. Or if you're too busy, like App Boy, I just like, oh, it's like great to see App Boy again. So yeah, so good, so good. So thank you. Yeah, and
Bye,
everybody,
everyone.
yep, everybody, please take care, and I will do this. Yeah, bye bye. Yeah.
I forget to breathe, just forget the why. Underneath the stars, I am hearing you, flying here like this with you. All the worries gone forever in this moment. Just forget the world underneath the stars. Forget to breathe. Just forget the love underneath the stars. I'm here with you now. Lying here like this with you. All the worries gone forever. In this moment, I am here with you.